And good evening, everybody. Hello and welcome. My name's Paul Grogan, and tonight I'm doing a live interview with Mr. Isaac Childres talking about Frosthaven. So hello to everybody who's joining in the chat. We are streaming this live to YouTube and also Facebook at the same time. If you are watching this live on Facebook, unfortunately I don't have the Facebook, the chat for Facebook working. So if you want to join in the chat, you'll have to pop on over to YouTube. And yeah, join in the chat there. You can see in the middle of the screen we have the menu for the day, where we're going to talk about Frosthaven. We're going to talk about Frosthaven in general terms first. Then we're going to go into a deep dive of the 6 starting characters of the game, and then we're going to have some ice cream for dessert. So, without further ado, I assume everybody can hear me and see me okay. I'm talking as if they can. So let's welcome Mr. Isaac Childres. You should be on screen.
Hello.
Now you're on screen. Excellent.
I'm on screen.
You are on screen. So yeah, we've got quite a few people watching live. I think it was 170 people watching. Not all of them are in the chat.
Cool.
People are going to be putting questions in the chat, and I might not see them all. If it's anything like the last live Q&A that I did, the questions flooded in, and I didn't manage to see them all. So apologies in advance if I don't see your question. But yeah, thank you very much, Isaac, for giving it some time to join us and talk about Frosthaven.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, thanks for having me on, so I can shamelessly promote my Kickstarter.
Yeah, well, I've kind of been joking that you're a little known designer that hasn't really done anything of note, so getting you on my show to give you a bit of extra boost to your publicity.
I definitely need the signal boost.
So, Frosthaven. Let's assume somebody's watching this live who actually doesn't know what Frosthaven is. Give us a quick rundown.
Right. So Frosthaven is the sequel to Gloom Haven. So, should I assume they know what Gloom Haven is?
We'll assume they knew what Gloom Haven is, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the next sort of big box thing from Cephalofair. Like, imagine something on a similar scale to Gloomhaven itself. So 16 new character classes, like an entirely new campaign set in an entirely different part of the world. It's probably going to be somewhere around 100 scenarios. Still haven't ironed out all the side scenarios yet, but yeah, it's just a whole other giant big box content for people to explore, and we're going to add some new mechanics. The combat mechanics are going to stay relatively the same, same 2-card system, just with different character classes that sort of play with the mechanics in different ways. And then we're adding sort of a big new like town building aspect to the game, so where you're, instead of just collecting money when you're going around in these different scenarios, you're also going to be now collecting resources that you can use to build buildings back in town or craft items. To build up the defenses of your town, but then also like there are lots of different buildings that you'll be able to unlock over the course of the game that all do different sorts of things that are interesting, and just gives you a lot more options and lots more like flavor in between, playing scenario to scenario.
Yeah. So it's a standalone product, isn't it?
Yes. So we'll be offering a product that's has all the components necessary to play the game without you needing to have Gloom Haven. So it's a standalone product.
Okay, couple of questions that I've been asked. Can you carry on your characters from Gloom Haven and just move them into this and carry on playing? Or should you just start again from level 1?
So the idea is that you're going to start again from level 1.
Right.
You can carry over the character classes, right? So if you want to play as a brute in Frosthaven, that's totally cool. Like, you can just grab that character and start him back at level 1 in Frosthaven. But yeah, it is sort of designed to be a whole new campaign, so you want to start fresh.
Right. Okay, cool. So a couple of questions in the chat, even though I said please hold please hold fire with all the questions. We've had quite a few of them. Will characters be able to share loot and resources amongst party members?
So the sharing is similar. So like, you can't share money, you can't share items, but resources are kind of different, because like you need to like collectively be able to sort of put put all your stuff together to build these buildings that'll help you all collectively.
Yeah.
So you can always keep your resources for yourself, or I guess the idea is that there will be like a party pool of resources as well. So you can like if you find like 3 wood, you can maybe keep 2 because you want to build this item that requires some wood, but then like contribute 1 to the party pool, and then in the party pool, like anybody can use it, and that's also like where you would use your resources to build buildings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And for those people who don't know, you are going to Kickstarter with this?
Yes, on March 24th.
2 weeks
2
today.
weeks. Yes.
2 weeks today? Yeah.
2 weeks today. Yeah.
2 weeks today. So yeah, it's going on Kickstarter. There aren't going to be any stretch goals. So just talk about your reason for having no stretch goals.
Sure. Yeah, no stretch goals. So, the thing is, like, it makes a lot of sense for most Kickstarters, just in the sense that you're just dealing with, like, smaller quantities of things to where, like, if you can print 2,000 copies of a game or 10,000 copies of the game, like, your price difference is going to be a lot different at those 2 quantities. And so, as the price goes down, as you get more people, then, you'll have more money that you can put into other parts of the game and improve components and things like that. We're just starting at a place of like, we're pretty sure that we're going to be able to print like at least 10,000 copies. And, at that point, like the difference between like 10 and 20 or like 20 and 40, like your price differences become a lot smaller.
Yeah.
And so just, this economy of scale, like isn't really working for you at that point. But at that point, like you already know, like, I can already print 10,000 copies. Like I can already get like, the lowest price I can get. And because of that, like I can put all the stuff that I want to put in the game just right from the start.
Yeah.
So like everything that I want from Frosthaven to be, like it's going to be that. Like I'm not. It's not like I'm depending on people to make that happen necessarily in this case.
Yeah.
So it just makes sense to just have everything in the box and just tell everybody up front, like this is all the stuff that's going to be in the box. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. Now, some people might ask, well, then why are you going on Kickstarter at all? Like if you know you can print enough copies, then what's the point? Part of that is just we don't know like exactly how many to print.
Right.
Right. So like, should I print 20,000? Should I print 100,000? Like I don't know. And there was that big issue that took like over a year to resolve, like with Gloom Haven.
Yeah.
Where we weren't able to print enough copies up front. And when you're talking about printing like 100,000 copies, like I don't have the money, like even with the success of Gloom Haven, to just like turn around and say, yeah, let's print 100,000 copies.
Right.
So it's just, so there's a lot of unknowns there. There is a lot of financial investment that'll still be helpful. And then also like, I just want to, engage the community.
Yeah.
There's going to be lots of cool stuff that's going on with this Kickstarter. Like I don't, a lot of it's going to be a surprise. So like, I don't want to spoil anything up front, but there's going to be a lot of community involvement, even without the stretch goals, where, so people will definitely have a say in certain aspects of like what goes into the game, like side scenarios and events and stuff like that. So I want to involve the community as much as possible.
Cool.
But I feel like, stretch goals don't necessarily have to be a part of that.
I mean, what you could have done from a marketing point of view is just listed 20 stretch goals that were all unlocked once you got $1.
Sure. Just to say, hey, we have stretch goals.
We have stretch goals. We could, So a couple of questions in the chat. Will the base Gloom Haven game be available for purchase during the Kickstarter?
Yes.
Right.
And so basically we're gonna have like lots of add-ons, solo scenarios, things like that, stuff that may not be like readily available in stores, but we want to give people the opportunity to get them if they want them, and we're kind of doing like essentially like 2 shipments. Like stuff that we already have like in the warehouse, like Gloom Haven and stuff.
Yeah.
Like pretty much as soon as the pledge manager closes, we'll be able to ship those out. all that sort of stuff to you, and then we'll have like a second shipment, like when Frosthaven is ready, early next year,
Okay.
ship that as well. So like, yeah, if you buy Gloomhaven from us during the Kickstarter, you're not gonna have to wait a year to get it.
Yeah. And the miniatures then, will there be a miniatures version of Frosthaven and a standees version?
I think that's something we haven't really talked about too much, but I think we're kind of leaning away from the standee version, I think.
Right.
Like at the end of the day, like it wasn't actually that big of a cost saver. So like in that initial Gloomhaven Kickstarter where like I offered it for $15 cheaper than the minis version, like I ended up not doing very well with that financial decision.
Okay.
And so it didn't really make much sense to like offer both at different price points, because like the price point wouldn't actually be that much of a difference now that like I know what I'm doing. So yeah, I figured just give people minis. I know there are people who like the standee version, but yeah, like just moving forward, because like we can only make it on a limited basis, I don't know. Yeah, we're probably just gonna not do that.
Not 100% sure, but you're leaning towards probably just the miniatures version.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Right. Okay. So how many different character classes are included with this game?
16.
16. 17 in the original, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was 17, yeah. So 16. And like Gloomhaven, 6 of them are the starting ones that we're going to be talking about today, and the other 11 we're not going to talk about at all.
Right.
Sorry, 10.
Yeah,
I can't add up. And people are not going to be talking about these additional 10 characters. They'll just be referring to them by the icons, as they still do with the original Gloomhaven ones. Right, so
we're working on those icons too.
Yes.
So you'll be able to see the icons on the Kickstarter page. And I'm still I'm on the fence about like providing a spoiler page.
Okay.
Where people can like see them all. I felt like that was necessary for Gloomhaven, just because like I didn't have people's trust at that point. Like I had to like let them know like, yes, there actually is all this other stuff that you're getting. I'm not just like lying to you, giving you like a small thing up front and then not actually having anything behind the curtain. But I feel like now people can trust me that there's stuff behind the curtain. So I'm not really sure like how much whether I need to like give people all the spoilers up front, like because I think it'd be better for people like if they didn't spoil themselves.
Yeah, I don't
they
think
should be able
to
to trust me not to spoil themselves.
One quick question just before we do go and start talking about the classes is from Hans, and he wants to know, he basically said that the world map in Gloomhaven didn't do much for him. Is this going to change in Frosthaven? Now, I can answer some of this because I've seen the map and it's kind of split into 2 halves. The upper half of the map is where you put all the stickers for the scenarios like before, but the bottom half of the map is the city itself, and you put stickers on that when you actually build the buildings and build up the town.
So like the top half of the map is going to be pretty much the same. Like we're making some small changes that just add to the coolness factor a little bit, but it'll still functionally be the same. And then the bottom half of the map, I think there'll be a lot more interaction there where you'll be putting stickers down, and then these stickers will kind of give you the functions of the various buildings as well, so you can kind of look at that and see all the different things that you can do in town. And I think that'll be really cool.
I'm just going to show if I can get it working. There we go. We have the map on screen right now. So that is the map. That's what it looks like. So yeah, this top bit, I mean, if you're saying there's about 100 scenarios, that's going to get busy. It's going to get very busy of stickers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a lot bigger than the original.
Okay.
So like, that first, the top half is going to be about the same size as the board in Gloomhaven. So I mean, it's not going to be like twice as big, but it's going to be significantly bigger.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right. So which of the 6 starting characters do you want to talk about first?
I don't know. I have the banner spear pulled up right now,
Yeah,
so
let's
we
talk
could
about that
start.
one. So I'm just going to change the image to banner spear. There we go. So that is the banner spear. Now, all I know about the banner spear is that she's human.
That's a good start,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there were no humans really in Gloomhaven. Not really.
Yeah, there were.
Were there?
Those-
Okay, I'm getting confused then.
Yeah. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, there's a scoundrel starting class,
Oh, of course, yeah,
and then there was another class that I'm sure you've unlocked, but we don't have to talk about it.
we have. Okay. So not many of them, but there's more humans up north, is there, or the same percentage?
Uh, well, same percentage of classes,
Right.
So like yeah, in original Gloomhaven there was more or less like what two classes of each race.
Okay.
So yeah, the humans as a race had 2 classes. Yeah, so up north, kind of what we're doing is having 1 class of each of the old races, and then we're introducing some new races and doing 2 classes of each of those. Those are all
Right.
locked though, so we don't have to talk about this.
Okay.
So yeah, this is kind of the human class in Frosthaven.
Right. So tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about this one, and then we'll look at a couple of the specific cards.
sure. So, I mean, like Gloomhaven, and pretty much like the entire continent where the game is set, like humans are the dominant race,
Yeah.
right? So like there are more humans in Gloomhaven than other races, and that's the same sort of idea for Frosthaven as well. I'd say Frosthaven is populated like mostly like maybe like 80 to 90% by humans, because it's actually like closer to the capital and uh, less dependent on like foreign trade and stuff. Like it's basically just like an outpost created by the human capital, and so then yeah, it's mostly populated by humans from the capital.
Right.
Um, so yeah, so like the banner spear kind of represents kind of like the human spirit and the human resolve of like being in this desolate like frozen place and just kind of fighting and standing tall against all the threats. So she's like very like valorous class, kind of the tank of the starting group, with
Okay.
her 3 armor and she's got her weapons are spears, but then she also like affixes like banners to the end of them, so she can like plant them in the ground and sort of increase the morale of the troops or the other characters fighting with you.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, I just thought that was, I don't know. I'm not actually sure like how practical it is to have like banners on the end of your spears, but it's a cool image.
It's a fantasy world. Anything goes.
It kind of reminds me of that episode of The Simpsons, where there was like that action version of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, like the action remake, and like at the end of it, he like throws the American flag and like kills somebody with it, and they like fall over, and like the flag like waves strongly in the background, like as it's impaled on somebody. Kind of like that image was what
Right.
I was going for, I guess.
So put it in the back of the rule book. Banner spear inspired by The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Right. So you've picked a couple of cards specifically. Now these are just level 1 cards, so we're not giving any spoilers away of anything beyond level 1.
Yeah.
But the first one we've got is combined effort.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, this card kind of just gives you a general idea of how the Banner Spear operates, with this, depiction where you've got like the 3 hexes. You got the gray hex, which is you, the red hex, which is your enemy, and then a green hex, which is going to be a space that has to have an ally in it. So the only way you can perform this ability is if you have an ally standing in that hex, and then the red hex you can then attack with this ability. I know some people have mentioned, obviously, that, like with red-green colorblindness, you might have some difficulty like figuring out that depiction. We're working on that, and will definitely have some other like graphical differentiation between those two hexes.
Yeah, you can just put a small symbol inside the hex or something.
Yeah, symbols or something. Shouldn't be too hard to. Well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's sort of the idea, is that she's like this troop leader, right? And so she wants to like work with her allies, and so kind of do a combined effort where two people together are better than just one person and can perform this attack.
Right.
So a lot of her abilities are you have to have your ally standing in a specific place, and then you can perform this big great attack that's going to be better than just an attack that you might perform otherwise, because there's like conditional elements to it.
There's a question in on the chat from Rage Badger Gaming, who says, can you swap the green and the grey over?
Yeah, just like any depiction, like any area effect depiction in Gloom Haven, you can always like mirror it or rotate it however you want.
Okay.
It's not chiral, or is chiral? Yeah, one of those.
Cool. Right. Okay. So the next card we're going to look at from the Banner Spear is At All Costs.
Yeah. So this is kind of an answer a little bit to just lower player counts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're in a 2-player group, obviously it might be a lot harder to like pull off some of these formations, especially like some at higher levels. It might even need like more than one ally to perform. So we had to sort of give the Banner Spear her own summons, so that they could count as allies and be able, you could use them to help out with making sure that you've, got everybody in the right position when you need it.
Yep.
So yeah, this is I'm specifically talking about like the bottom of this card, which is very important for Banner Spear. This idea of like being able to summon a reinforcement that is very weak, like just has 1 hit point, so any sort of wind will knock him over, and 2 movement, but and no attack. So all he's doing is like just being a warm body for you to create your formations with.
Yeah.
And you can control the movement of the summon, which is
that's the important difference. Yeah.
So yeah, you put him on the board, and then you can kind of start moving around, making sure that he doesn't get hit, and then you can increase the chances that you'll be able to pull off one of your maneuvers.
Okay.
And it also can become like very important, like as a tank. Like if you've got some big monster who's about to do like 10 damage to you, maybe you just send your reinforcement up. He soaks that big hit.
Yeah.
And it is a resummonable summon, right? It's a non-lost summon, which is kind of a new thing that we're playing around with in Frosthaven as well. Like a lot of the starting characters have these non-lost summons, so
right.
Yeah, you put him out there, he dies, goes in your discard pile,
and then
you can rest and get him back and throw him out there again.
Yeah. Okay. Couple of questions in the chat then about minis. Obviously in Gloom Haven, the summons are just represented by tokens that you put on the board.
Yeah.
Are there any plans to have standees or potentially even minis for the summons?
Yes. So that's something that we've just kind of started working out. But yeah, my plan is to have minis, or sorry, not minis, standees.
Standees.
Standees for all the summons. So basically, like in your character box, you'll have your character mat and all your cards and stuff, and then you'll also have like a little punch board with all the standees you'll need for your summons as well. Right.
Okay. Cool. Because there is some discussion in the chat about actual miniatures for the summons and potentially even the monsters. And people are saying that the 3D modelling community for Gloom Haven is actually quite large. So people have probably already created, STL files that people can print off on their home 3D printers.
Yeah, I think like basically all the Gloom Haven monsters you can find files for, and I'm sure that there's summons as well, and so I'm pretty sure that'll happen for Frosthaven.
Okay.
But yeah, at this point, like we're sticking to standees for the monsters and summons.
Okay, right. So that's the Banner Spear covered. One question in just from Joel before we move on. With the many added mechanisms, it says mechanics, but I've changed it to mechanisms. Will that increase the play time, setup and takedown time? Or are there ways of streamlining anything?
So they want to decrease it. Obviously, they
Uh,
don't want to increase it. But
well,
they're asking if it.
yeah, they're asking if it's going to increase the playtime and the setup and take downtime because there's more being added to the game.
Oh, no. I mean, so you'll be spending more time between scenarios, right? Because
Right.
that's basically like the extra mechanism slash mechanics
Yeah.
of the game. And then within a scenario, yeah, you should be looking at like a very, very similar runtime. I mean, there is like slightly more setup with the loot deck,
Yep.
right? So like, you know, when you collect tokens from killing monsters and stuff, like you'll trade those in for cards from a loot deck, and that's kind of how you get different resources instead of just collecting money exclusively. And that loot deck is customized to the scenario itself. So, like at the beginning of each scenario, you'll have like a larger deck of loot cards, and you'll pull out the ones that you need for that specific scenario.
Yeah.
That's really the only thing I can think of that like will increase like the setup time of a
Okay.
scenario.
Okay. Cool. Right. Let's move on. There are a load of other questions coming in the chat, but we won't have time today to answer all of them. I will try and pick some out. So the next one is the Blink Blade,
Yeah.
which is a little
Blade.
quattrel with little legs.
Well, I mean, relatively, his legs
Well, yeah,
are
relatively.
maybe a little
Yeah.
little longer, but yeah, he's a little guy
Yeah.
with a little dagger that will kill you.
So the Blink Blade, yeah, because he's got a glowing blue dagger in the picture, and he's got lots of arrows flying past him.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so you can kind of think of the Blink Blade as you know, like kind of a Flash type character. Apparently, there's some Overwatch character that's very similar, but I don't play Overwatch so I can't remember the name at the
Okay.
moment. But everyone's like, "Oh yeah, he's like that Overwatch character," and I'm like, "Okay, sure." I wish I could remember now. I'm sure people are saying it in the chat.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, the idea is that quattrels are very technical minded, and so he's created kind of like a temporal device that he can manipulate that allows him to speed up time or slow down time, on a very limited basis, and requires a lot of energy. So like, if he wants to slow down time so that he can move really fast, like he's got to sort of build up a bunch of energy by making himself slow for a while as well.
Okay.
So he's got these counters on his player mat that kind of functions like the energy that he has stored to be able to move fast. And so each round you're going to declare whether you go slow or fast. And if you go slow, then you get to add a counter to this card. And if you go fast, you've got to remove a counter from the card. So you can only go fast if you have at least one counter on the card.
Okay.
And then all his ability cards, kind of have different modes depending on whether you're going slow or fast. Basically, like if you're going slow, usually you get some sort of penalties to all the abilities on your cards, and if you're going fast, then you get various bonuses. And also, like your initiative will change whether you're going slow or fast as well.
I'm just going to show one of those on screen now. So I'm showing Hit and Run on screen now.
Yeah.
And the special thing about these is that they have 2 initiative values.
Yes.
So you choose to go slow, which means you can add a counter to your card, or you go fast and you remove a counter from your card.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and the design on these still isn't final, but we have now switched the fast and the slow so that the fast is on the same side as the initiative of the fast.
Okay.
There were a lot of people who complained about that, so I just wanted to point that out.
Right, okay.
We changed that at least. Though the design still isn't final. We're not quite sure how we want to depict the initiatives in the middle yet.
The character in Overwatch is apparently Tracer.
Tracer, that's what it is, yeah.
There we go.
But yeah, so the Blink Blade is here. The Blink Blade is kind of like an assassin. Like if we want to get more into like the flavor.
Right.
He's very mercenary minded. But also like there are rumors of old quattral technology kind of hidden in the snow up in the north, and so he's kind of come to investigate that as well.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else to say about this? So yeah, a lot of his flavor is just tied into the idea of just like moving fast and like hit and run in particular, like the bottom of that can become pretty important like for a specific play style. Because he doesn't have a lot of hit points, doesn't have a lot of stamina. But yeah, so the idea that he wants to like run in, like just stab that monster really hard, and then like run away so he doesn't get attacked.
Right.
So that's kind of like the idea behind like the persistent ability here, where like after you perform your attack, you can move away.
Yeah.
So you don't get smashed.
Cool. Right. Let's look at the second card from the Blink Blade that you wanted to show, which is SAP Speed.
Yeah. So this is just another example of like sort of the differences between like fast and slow, right? So you've got like the standard sort of attack 2 on 2 different hexes.
Yep.
If you're going fast, then you get like bonuses to the attack and advantage. But also like if you're going slow, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna like have some penalty. So for instance, in this case, like if you're going slow, you're still gonna do something cool. Like you're still gonna muddle those targets, even if you're not doing much damage. So yeah, it gives like a little more like flexibility. So you're not always like, so going slow doesn't always just like feel like a penalty or like you're just going to be doing something boring.
Right.
Like there's still interesting things to do when you're going slow.
Okay.
And then the bottom of this card kind of demonstrates, I don't know, some of the flavor of the class as well, like where you're sort of sapping the speed from the enemies around you, kind of like taking their energy and getting to store them into your device.
Yeah.
Basically like stopping them and then so that you can go faster later.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, one of the characters that I'm playing at the moment is able to stun enemies quite a lot, and we've all seen the benefit of being able to stun something when it's like it's massive and it's going to hit you for like 10 damage, and you just go, oh yeah, it's stunned, and it's like, yeah, brilliant. Especially if you've wounded it, because then it takes the damage from the wound and then doesn't do anything. It's fantastic. Question in the chat from Richie. And he wants to know, will Paul's Learn to Play video be available for new players at the time the game ships? Now, we've not discussed any video coverage for Frosthaven, so
that's true.
We'll let you know on that. Because I didn't know, when you first announced it, I wasn't aware at the time of how much was different in the game. Now, mechanically, you're saying that the core of the game is different. It doesn't make sense to do an entire new video just with different graphics. But it may be worth doing here's what,
like a
5-10 minute, here's what's different video. But yeah, we'll talk about that another time. And another question is about, at this point, do you know if the production of Frosthaven will be delayed by COVID-19?
I mean, that's a difficult question. I don't think we can really answer that at this point. Like we're planning on getting the files to the printer September, October timeframe. So like, who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows where the world will be at that point?
Yeah.
It is obviously it's a concern of ours, and we're definitely keeping it in mind. And adding some buffer and just but just acknowledging that that could be an issue in the future. If it is, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Another question in the chat, which I can answer actually, which is, will enhancements be in the game? And I can say yes, because some of the cards that we've shown already have got little dots on them.
Yeah.
So.
Enhancements will still be in the game. That'll be one of the buildings that you will eventually be able to unlock, is somewhere where you can spend gold to make your cards better.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right. Next one is, this guy sounds like a really nice guy. Deathwalker. Or is it a woman? I think it might be a woman.
Yes, female Volrath.
Right, okay. So the Deathwalker then.
Yeah, sorry, I was pulling these cards up. So the Deathwalker is a Volrath, and kind of her backstory. The Volrath weren't always seen in the nicest of lights. They had sort of a big war with the humans, a few centuries ago,
Yeah.
and the sort of the outcome of that war, which is kind of tied a little bit to spoilers of Gloomhaven, so I won't get into it too much. But yeah, in the outcome of that war, like the Volrath decided to kind of change their ways and become more peaceful, and just try and work with the humans instead of kill them all. And the Deathwalker is kind of this idea of this Volrath who's kind of just like still dealing with all of the weight of like the Volrath's past, and just kind of still like trying to like atone for that.
Okay.
And so like her whole thing is she just wanders around to different places, and you kind of see her as like a priest or something, like giving like last rites to people. Like, so if somebody dies, like she just wants to make sure like their soul is like moves on to the next place, wherever that is, like peacefully.
Okay.
And so she has like this connection with death. It's not about like going out and spreading death and killing everybody, but
Right.
it's just like this connection, like this close connection to death, and like taking the souls of the dead and moving them along, or maybe like using them a little bit to kill your enemies
Right.
before they move on.
Yeah, because from the picture there, it looks like she's got something. She's carrying it around with her.
Yeah.
Somebody's
Yeah.
soul?
So she is. Yeah. Maybe.
Maybe.
It's yeah. Maybe it's the soul of a loved one that maybe she's not ready for it to move on yet.
Okay. Okay.
But it can help in her travels.
Right. So the first card
Yeah.
we're going to look at from the Deathwalker is Sunless Apparition. Now this is another summon card, which isn't a lost card. So it's one that you
Yeah.
can keep resummoning multiple times.
Well, yeah, if we could look at Call to the Abyss first.
Okay, let's go to Call to the Abyss first.
All right, so this is sort of her whole thing
There we
is creating these shadow tokens,
Right, okay.
which kind of represent like the souls of the dead. And so this card is sort of her main way to create shadow tokens.
Okay.
And so she can either, like, as a bottom ability, like once per rest, just create a shadow token on the board,
Right.
or put out this persistent ability where every time she kills an enemy, that creates a shadow token. Like, so that's the
Right.
soul of the enemy that she's killed. So the idea here is, basically to create as much shadow tokens as you can, because most of her other abilities will sort of key off of these shadow tokens in one way or the other.
Right, okay.
And so, yeah, one of those ways is with that summon. So it's not a lost summon, but it's still going to cost you like a shadow token to create it. But yeah, it's more powerful than like the reinforcement summon, because it obviously can attack and do other things.
Yeah.
But it creates, or it uses a shadow token to actually create that. And then I don't know what's the bottom of that card.
The bottom of the Call to the Abyss is place a shadow
Sunless
token
Apparition.
within range 2.
No, the other card.
The other
there
one.
it is.
Let's go to the other one.
Yeah, or like this is a good example of other ways to use your shadows. Like, so you can teleport to
Right.
your shadow token. So basically, like, move from one shadow to the other, and then you can also lose it to perform a loot. But basically, like, you can see, like, your shadows have lots of different functions. You can also like attack enemies like from a shadow. So like you perform an
Okay.
attack as if you were standing in the hex of the shadow, or like just explode your shadow to like do damage to everything around it, and lots of cool fun stuff you can do with your shadow tokens.
Right. Okay. Is Deathwalker a healer, says Jimmy.
Does she have any healing abilities? I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't think she does. She might have like
Okay.
one,
Right.
but not really.
Right.
She is mostly, just a ranged damage dealer
Yeah. Okay.
that
Right.
does weird things.
fourth character we're going to cover is the Drifter. Now, the Drifter is an Inox, and I remember from the Gloom Haven lore that it kind of said that there's lots of Inoxes up north.
No, there's lots of Algoxes up north.
Okay.
But that's kind of the distant cousin to the Inox. They're
right.
bigger and meaner, and some might say stupider. But but yeah, they're kind of like big Yetis with giant horns.
Right.
And yeah, they're kind of like a genetic offshoot of the Inox. Like when in ancient times when the two races. Or there was one race, but then one went up north, and so they had to like evolve differently to survive in the harsh snow, and so they became bigger and stuff like that. So
okay.
So yeah, the Algox live in the north, but yeah, there are still like these Inox who from the south who can travel up north to Frosthaven if they so desire.
Yeah. And
so this is. Yeah, one of those Inoxes. The Drifter's whole thing is that he just kind of has like fully abandoned society. So that the history between the Inox and the humans is a little sordid.
Mm-hmm.
Like the history with humans and any other race.
Yeah, but
and so the humans largely like killed off the Inoxes in their expansion, and so like Inoxes mostly live in like the forested areas that haven't been taken over by the humans, and they kind of like fall into like one of two different philosophies. One is just like we hate the humans, we want to kill them all. And the other philosophy is just like, they're here, we're not going to kill them, and so let's just kind of like work with them. And so you get a lot of like people like the brutes, who just kind of wander into Gloom Haven and like, just give me some work. I'm here to make a living and live in your society. Versus some of them were like the Inox who like live in the forests and do their own thing.
Right.
But the Drifter just like threw up his hands. He's like, I don't care about any of this. I'm just gonna live on my own and live off the land and just not associate with any one group or be tied to any one, I don't know, philosophy or anything. He just he's off doing his own thing. But somehow he's wandered into Frosthaven and decided that maybe he'll spend some time as a mercenary up there.
Right.
Because the land up north is especially harsh, so maybe he does need to work with somebody in order to stay alive.
Okay. So let's have a look at the first of the Drifter cards, which is Unbreakable. That's the one I've got. If you want to talk about that one first.
Right. Sure, yeah. So thematically, like his whole thing is just like, being like a survivalist and just like having like all these abilities that or like sustaining himself through all these different persistent abilities.
Right.
That's kind of what I was going for with these cards. So like with Unbreakable, you can see like the bottom of that card, I believe. Yeah.
The next 6 times you suffer damage from an attack, gain a shield.
Right. Which actually like is one of the Brute's abilities.
Yeah.
I forget the name of the card off the top of my head. But yeah, it's almost identical to that. But the idea here is if you look at the top of that card, he's got lots of ways to kind of recharge his persistent abilities.
Right.
His persistent abilities that have uses on them. So, so the idea is that you'll put this out and actually like you think you're just getting like 6 damage mitigation out of it, but actually like by playing other abilities, you'll be able to like constantly recharge it and hopefully sustain it like in play for the entire scenario.
Okay.
So I mean, it's almost just like having that ability without the charges, but it gives you like more to think about and like more to manage like in the scenario, which is something I find interesting.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got to kind of work towards having these abilities stay out and not losing them prematurely for whatever reason.
Right.
just by being able to, playing all these abilities that will constantly be recharging those charges.
Okay.
And so you've got like, the other card, Crushing Weight,
Yep.
is kind of just another example of this. Basically, he's got like two of these cards, that one of which you'll definitely want to play. There's like Crushing Weight, and then the other one is, I don't know. Hold on. You don't have it.
I don't have
Precision Aim.
I don't have it ready. No.
So Crushing Weight gives you a bonus to your melee attacks. Precision Aim gives you a bonus to your ranged attacks.
Okay.
So you probably want to have one of those out and kind of like pick a build that you want to go with, like either ranged or melee, and kind of stick to that.
Okay.
And then just make sure that you've got this constantly charged, so that you get a +2 on basically every attack that you make.
Right.
And then you can see like the bottom of this ability is like the bottom of this card is another way to recharge your abilities, where you move 2, but then you also get to move one of your tokens back 1 space.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I find particularly interesting about like this mechanic is the experience icons on these persistent abilities as well.
Yeah.
So like the only way that he earns experience is from his persistent abilities.
Oh, right. Okay.
So you can kind of like not pay attention to it and just, try and charge your cards as much as possible. But like the ideal way to play, right, is to keep your token like hovered on an experience symbol. So like every time you use it, you get an experience, and then you put it back on that experience symbol and use it again, and just like bounce back and forth and get an experience every time you use the ability.
Right.
That's hard to do, and you won't be able to manage it all the time. But that's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's fun to try and maximize that as much as possible.
Rage Badger Gaming says that it's Warding Strength, the brute card that you were trying to think of earlier on. Warding Strength.
That sounds right.
Yep. And another question: is there any way to recover these drifter cards when lost?
No.
No.
At least not currently.
Not currently.
I haven't made like all the high level abilities, but probably not.
Yeah.
The whole idea is you want to keep it charged while it's on your board.
Yeah. So in playtesting, how many of these cards have you managed to have out for the drifter, or have you seen out?
I don't know, probably not more than 3.
3?
Like, and that's like, I mean, he does have 12 cards, which is a lot of cards.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you put 3 out, now you're down to 9 cards, which is a lot less.
Yeah.
So you basically like want to pick a specific build. Like, do you want to do melee attacks and have a shield, or something like that, or maybe you put out like the shield and the retaliate, because there's like one for retaliate as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, just pick a few and then kind of like lean into that with your other cards.
Okay, cool. Right, the 5th character we're going to talk about today is, we've already had some questions on this one in the chat, and this is the Germinate. Yeah, which I've now made the window too big to fit in the thing. So there we go. And the questions that we've had so far on this one are: is this not too complex for a starting character?
Man, everybody loves to ask that question. But I don't know. In some sense, it's kind of weird, because like if you're on the chat and you're asking this question, like it's clearly not too complicated for you, because you are very familiar with the game already.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess like looking out for, I don't know, the new player, I think like, so in that respect, I think there will be some warning on this card that it is complicated.
Okay.
Or on this class that it is complicated, and if like it's your first time playing this game,
Do
like,
not play this one.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Like, there are plenty of other classes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so yeah. So in that respect, like why it's included in the starting classes was just, so I didn't know where else to put it. Okay. I guess that's the best explanation. But like, initially, like before we added the Necromancer, which is a 6 card, we only had 5 starting classes.
Right.
And that's because like I knew what classes I wanted to like get unlocked later. Like I had like good thematic reasons for keeping those classes locked. And then I just like didn't have a good thematic reason for keeping this class locked, so I just decided to include it in the starting characters. And that's pretty much, yeah, that's pretty much the explanation for that.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so like, yeah, it is complicated. I agree that it's probably the most complicated class in the starting or in the game, though there are like other fairly complicated classes that you'll unlock later.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't see that necessarily as a problem.
Right. As
Like,
long as you put that warning on there, like you say,
yeah.
do not play this unless you're experienced. So tell us about this character. This is a harrower, and it looks like there's two people under that hood.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing I'll say, right, is that just like all the classes in Frosthaven are complicated. There's not like, you know, that core 4 or 6 classes that are, you know, kind of like the basic ideas behind the game.
Yeah.
You know, because those classes kind of already exist, and I just wanted to like do different, interesting things.
Yeah.
With Frosthaven, so that's kind of, yeah. Like I would say, like the Drifter is probably like the least complicated class, but even that, like, you know, it's got some complexity to it. Anyway, so the Germinates. Yeah, so the Germinates' whole thing is that it's a harrower, which is a giant swarm of bugs, essentially, sentient swarm of bugs, and so the Germinate in particular is kind of weird among harrowers in the sense that it's not like one collective consciousness, which is what is normally you find with a harrower. It's like a collective consciousness, this giant swarm of bugs. But this is actually like 2 swarms of bugs who've kind of come together, but still kind of have their own consciousness. So it's kind of like two entities like working together in a single unit.
Okay.
And so how that plays out is you've got 2 separate forms that the Germinate can take, and that they will swap between those forms as you play through. And so you've got 2 separate decks of cards, that one you can only play in one form and one you can only play in the other form.
Right.
And then various cards that you play will switch between those 2. Will force you to switch between those 2, so you kind of have to go back and forth.
Right.
One form is more like melee attacks, and then the other form is more ranged attacks.
Right. And you'll be switching then during a scenario.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, you'll have 7 cards for each form, and then will get it like exhausted in the same way. Like if there's a round where you can't play 2 cards from your hands, like for whatever form that you're in,
right,
then you'll be exhausted as long as you can't rest.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so when you're in that form, you've got to play cards of that form, but you have 2 separate decks that you can play from depending on what form you're in.
Right. Okay. So let's have a look at one of the cards, and this is Harvest the Essence.
All right. It's probably going to take me a while to find these.
Because you've got more cards for this one than the others then.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not looking at your screen, so...
No. So how can you tell which form this is from?
So that's one thing that we're working on. So right now, like there's a symbol on the bottom of the card.
Right down at the bottom of the card, yeah. I can see that there.
Kind of small at the moment, so we're working on that.
Right.
But there's basically 2 symbols. So like, you know, the full character symbol of the Germinate is like these 2 symbols put together in kind of like a yin-yang thing. But then, yeah, you can kind of tell what form it is based on which half of that symbol is on that card.
Right.
It's also on the back of the card as well.
Yeah.
Much bigger, but I mean that doesn't help you as much. So yeah, we're definitely working on how best to convey that to people.
Yep.
And then the other exciting thing is that I know there's the 2 mini class from Gloom Haven, but this will be the 2 mini class in Frosthaven. So you'll have 2 separate miniatures for each form. So that'll be a good way to keep track of which form you're in, at least on the board, because you'll switch out every time you swap.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so Harvest the Essence, I finally found it. So the bottom of this is just kind of like an indicative of like this. This is for the ranged side of the class. So this is a kind of one of your standard range attacks. I will also note this important to note that this class was designed by Marcel,
Yeah.
not me. So the designer of Forgotten Circles. So that's it's one of the reasons why I'm slightly less familiar with these cards. But yeah, so his idea was to like have this range class that actually could only function at range, like to make it more more challenging to like switch between the two forms, right? So this form, like so it says like target one enemy at range 4 or 5, like so they have to be at 4 or 5 range. Like if they're at range 3, like you won't be able to hit them. So yeah, it makes it a little more challenging to like you're in your melee class, you're fighting things that are close to you, and then suddenly you're forced to like switch to this class, and now you can only attack things that are far away from you, and so you've got to kind of work with that.
Okay.
Then the top of this is something we're still playtesting and working on, so this isn't set in stone or anything.
Right.
But the idea here is that a lot of the Germinate's Lost cards, like their big attacks, will have a lot of elemental infusions to them. So like you'll be able to spend elements to make them even better. But the Germinate has like very limited ways to actually create elements. And so these were kind of the answer to that, since you can put out these persistent abilities. And this should actually have like a Lost on icon on it. I'm not sure why it doesn't.
Right.
Probably because I forgot to. Anyway, this is a lost persistent card where you can put it out, and then it allows you to generate elements. This one allows you to generate elements by moving. There's also a lost one for the other form that allows you to generate elements by doing enough damage in a round.
Yeah.
But you have to like basically consume all elements on the board in order to like create whatever element you want to. So it creates a little bit of a friction possibly with your teammates if you're consuming the elements they wanted to use.
Okay. And that icon just above the initiative number, does that mean then is that the switch forms?
Right. Yeah. So if you play this card. If you play this top ability or this top action, then you'll be forced to swap back into your other form at the end of your turn. Yeah.
So it isn't. So Chris is asking in the chat, does it take a round to switch between forms? And the answer is no. It's printed on the card.
Right. Yeah. So, but it doesn't happen immediately. Like you don't like play this action and then switch and then like play the bottom action of your other card in the other form.
Okay.
Like you switch, I believe it's at the end of your turn. Let me look at the special rules card.
Yep, it's all right. It's been answered in the chat. Happens at the end of your turn. Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to make sure I was right on that.
Yeah.
So but so it doesn't take like a round. So basically, at the end of your turn, basically like when you generate the elements at the end of your turn, you'll also switch forms if you performed ability that switched forms.
Okay.
And then also like when you rest, if you do a short rest, nothing happens. But if you take a long rest, then you can choose to switch forms if you want.
Right. Okay.
That's the only time you get to choose whether you switch. Otherwise, it's always forced upon you.
Right. Okay. Germinate card number 2 is Drag Down.
Drag Down. So this is kind of showing one of their more interesting area attacks.
Yeah.
So the melee form has a lot of also the range form as well has a lot of like just weird ranged attack patterns, just to make it a little more interesting.
Okay.
And then at the bottom you can kind of see one of the powerful lost abilities that you can improve by consuming elements.
Yeah.
And like the Germinate has element consumptions of like every type, so like all 6 elements they can use in one form or another. So it depends highly on like what classes you're playing with, like what elements that they can give to you. and then anything that you don't have, you can hopefully like make up with your persistent abilities.
Okay. Cool. Right. So that's the Germinate covered. Let's move on to the final character. Did Marcel design any other characters in this expansion, or just the Germinate?
Yeah, he's working on another class that is secret.
Secret class.
Yeah.
Right. So the last character that we're going to talk about today is the Necromancer.
Yes. The Necromancer, which is previously Jaws of the Lion character, now swapped over because she was too complicated.
Right, okay.
Like, I want to say, like, in all my playtesting, like, this is maybe, I don't know, I have to think about it more, but I think this is the character, like, I've had the most fun playing with. Like, I don't know, I just, like, in the original Gloom Haven, my favorite overall character is the Lightning Bolt character, which, you know, is a spoiler class. I won't go into too much detail, but there was a lot of health manipulation with that class. Like, you're always paying attention to how many hit points you had, and like using your hit points to do specific things. And I always found that really interesting, and that was always my favorite class to play in base Gloom Haven. And so you kind of have that same feeling with this class as well, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why it's become my favorite. But yeah, just saying, like, I really love this class, and you know, I tried really hard to get it in Jaws of the Lion, and it just like it just didn't work out because it was too complicated, and so it was either like, you know, take a lot of cool stuff out to make it less complicated, or just, you know, move it to Frosthaven.
Yeah,
and make sure that it gets to stay as cool as it is.
Right.
So that's what we did. So yeah, that's kind of. So like I was saying, like, initially we were only going to have 5 starting classes, and I was like, I always felt like there should be a 6th starting class, but I couldn't figure out what it was, and like, oh, well, now here it is. Here's the starting class.
So I'm guessing that this summons lots of little dead things.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's kind of interesting here, though, is that there is another Aether class in the game. So this is an Aether Necromancer.
Yeah.
And so this is, the Aethers are the only race in Frosthaven, other than the 3 new races, that has 2 classes of that race.
Right, okay.
Because this was added later. And originally it was human, like it was a human Necromancer.
Right.
But I don't know, it felt weird to me to have like 2 human starting classes. Even though there is another Aether class, I don't know. It was just a decision that I made to make it Aether. It still made sense, like, thematically. You know, I think the Aether actually makes like more sense because she's like pulling up these like, you know, like negative energies from like other planes, or not necessarily like even negative energies, but just like pulling the life force from different planes to like infuse into all her skeleton armies and other undead creatures that she can summon.
Right.
But yeah, the main idea here, you've got lots of summons. They are, most of them are also non-loss, so you can get them back. But the cost here, or as in the case of like the Deathwalker, the cost was like using up one of your shadows. The cost here is your health, which I think is really cool. You know, definitely inspired by the cultists from you know, the enemy from the original game.
Yeah.
You know, they would constantly be summoning skeletons, but doing damage to themselves.
Yeah.
So it was a very similar thing here, where in order to summon these skeletons, you've got to suffer damage, and you do not have a lot of health. You only have like 6 health as a starting class.
Wow.
So you're very limited in the amount of skeletons you can summon just from that.
Okay.
But you do have some healing abilities. You are definitely better at healing other people, but you do have ways to heal yourself.
Okay. Right, the first card we're going to look at for the Necromancer is Summon Shambling Skeleton. Try saying that 3 times when you've had a glass of wine.
Summon Shambling Skeleton. Well, the Damned Horde, I think, is the card name, right?
Damned Horde, yes, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, here's just, you've got 3 of these cards level 1, and you'll get more as you level up as well. Just this is your basic summon. You're going to have lots of these guys on the board. Your Shambling Skeleton, they've got 3 health, 2 movement, and 2 attack. They used to have 2 health, but I decided to give like a net positive to the overall health pool because you suffer 2 damage. So I gave them 1 extra health.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean they're a pretty useful summon. Like they can maybe survive a hit, and they have 2 movement, which is enough usually to like get from one room to the other, so you don't have to necessarily like unsummon them and resummon them again when
Right.
you're going from one room. And a 2 attack is also a decent amount of attack.
Yeah.
But yeah, they will die, and you'll be sad because in order to resummon them, you'll have to take 2 more damage. But
Yep. Yeah.
but it's not the end of the world if they die.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you kind of see on the bottom here that Necromancer also has lots of curse abilities.
Yeah.
Nothing as I don't know, broken as some of the curse abilities from the original Gloom Haven. We've kind of valued curse a little higher in the Frosthaven classes, so you'll still be able to curse things, but not quite as much as some of the classes from Gloom Haven.
Yeah, I mean, I've played 2 classes in Gloom Haven which have really gone for it with curses.
Yeah,
and when you can put 10 curses in the monster deck, that's it's very good.
Like give them permanent disadvantage essentially.
Basically,
it's like, oh yeah, we don't have to worry about taking damage ever again.
Yeah. Yeah, the Song of Disadvantage, I sing that quite a lot. So, right, let's have a look at the other card for the Necromancer then, which is Wrath of the Turned Earth.
Right.
So it allows you to do something with one of your summoned allies.
Yeah. Yeah, so you've got all these summoned allies on the board, and obviously they'll do stuff on their turns, but then like this one of the blocked classes from Gloom Haven, which I won't talk about.
Yeah.
There's lots of ways to give them extra actions as well.
Yeah.
And so that's an important feature of the Necromancer as well. And then you kind of see one of her persistent abilities, which is nice, which just lets you negate some damage from target.
Yeah, because summoned allies normally don't have much health, so you hit them once and they disappear.
Yeah. Yeah, which is kind of like my answer here as well, right? Is that you can resummon them in a lot of cases in Gloom Haven or in Frosthaven to hopefully combat that sort of negative feeling of like, yeah, I've just played this big lost card, I've got this great summon, and then enemy crit it, and I've just essentially wasted it. Yeah. Which is not a good feeling. And so we've kind of tried to make that a little better with these cards.
So we were asked right at the start of the Q&A, before we actually started covering the classes, is which is your favourite one? And you answered that, which is the Necromancer. So,
say the Necromancer is my favorite at the start.
And I hadn't realised that the Lightning Bolt was your favourite character from the original. So there we go. I've learned something myself. Right, let's put the menu back on screen. A couple of questions in the chat. Somebody's asking what monsters have transferred over from Gloomhaven to Frosthaven that are exactly the same.
I mean we're bringing a lot of monsters over where it makes sense. So most of the undead, so like living spirits and living bones. Yep. I think there are living corpses as well, but we've also added the frozen corpse, which is kind of like the upgraded version of the living corpse. Right. And there's also some other stuff. We've obviously got lurkers. There are new types of lurkers as well. Right. Frost lurkers? Yes. Well, yeah. They live in the ocean, so they're not quite as frosty. But and then hounds and a lot of the imps. I think there'll be some drakes and
so quite a few.
I don't know, off the top of my head, it's hard to remember because there are lots of new enemies as well. Yeah, but ancient artillery. Okay. Harrowers. Yeah. Yeah.
So quite a few. Rage Badger Gaming's got another question. He's obviously been involved in this and knows more than I do, but he's asking, will all kill effects from Gloomhaven be replaced with the new Bane effect from Frosthaven. Now, I don't know what the Bane effect is.
Right. So yeah, we've added a couple new status effects, or sorry, conditions.
Right.
In Frosthaven, one of them being Bane. We're also using like Regenerate a lot more, which was introduced in Forgotten Circles. So Bane essentially is it's a condition that you can put on somebody, and at the end of their next turn, when it would be removed, if they haven't been healed, like basically if you get healed, any sort of healing effect will remove it. But at the end of their turn, if it hasn't been removed, then they suffer 10 damage and it gets removed. So it's kind of like an answer to like instant kill effects, because it's like, and it's usually a kill, but it's not instant. Like it takes a round to take effect, and also like it is hit point limited. Like it's only going to do 10 damage. It's not going to do 30 damage if they're a big beefy elite. So I mean, there obviously are like some mechanical like balance issues with like retrofitting that to like all the previous characters.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it won't happen. It's not gonna happen like immediately, but I could see at some point in the future, maybe like when we do a second edition of Gloom Haven, whenever that happens, if that happens, that they'll be rebalanced and retrofitted at that point.
Okay. Somebody's asking if we're going to have a Stinky Queen class.
Is that Efka?
No. No, Efka doesn't watch my stuff, I don't think.
Well, yeah, there's been some talk about maybe like including some reference to Stinky Queen in this game.
Okay.
And I don't know. It might happen. I mean, not as a class, obviously, but maybe just as like a card game that people play in the bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are you familiar with Stinky Queen?
I was there at the time. You were telling me all about it. And,
yeah. Oh yeah. The thing we did on the last day at the dinner last day of Essen. Yeah.
So Frosthaven, the Foreteller app. A few people have asked this.
Yeah. We are working with Foreteller.
Yep.
They will be part of the Kickstarter campaign, so you can pledge to get that.
Okay, cool.
And so our plan, and there's no reason why this shouldn't happen, but our plan is to have Foreteller release like the full audio narration when the game is released.
Right.
So people will get the game and they'll be able to download that and play it with it right out of the box.
Okay. And quick question about the amount of shelf space. I think the box is it the same size box?
I mean, that's to be determined. I think there are going to be a couple more punch boards than in Gloom Haven. So we're trying to keep the box the same size.
Okay. But
it's to be determined. It'll definitely be a similar size.
A similar size. It'd be nice if they're the same size so that they, stack up and they look nice.
Those two dimensions will be the same. That would be cruel if they were like an inch different or something.
Yeah.
So they'll stack up on top of each other nicely. Just the height might change a little bit.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Now, there was a question earlier on in the chat, and I've just scrolled back to find it. And it was a question about the seasons, because just tell us a little bit about the seasons in Frosthaven and how they work.
Sure. Essentially, there are 2 seasons that you will progress through in the game. The idea is that you're up north, it's all cold and everything, and so like seasonal effects will have much more of an impact on the ecology and stuff, right? So like in the winter, like it's going to be like really hard to move around, and it's just going to be miserable, and you got to like spend resources to keep yourself warm and things like that. I wanted to kind of like include that into the game, and so the idea is that you have a summer season and a winter season, and you'll start at the beginning of summer, and then every time you return to town, essentially like every time you complete a scenario and go back to town, it's similar to Gloomhaven, like where you might have like linked scenarios where you can do a couple in a row without going back to town. But whenever you go back to town, you like progress time, and every like 15 progressions of time will be a change of seasons. So you'll go from summer to winter after essentially like 15 to 20 scenarios.
Right.
And the way that affects the game is that the main way it affects the game is that you'll have event decks that are tied specifically to different seasons.
Right. Okay.
So in the summer, you'll do like a summer city event and a summer road event. But then when you get into winter, you'll do a winter city event and a winter road event. And the winter events are just like a lot more harsh.
Harsh. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the time when all these threats around you will start attacking the town and destroying things. And so your city events will largely be dealing with that and sort of the repercussions of that. And then when you actually travel outside to go to scenarios and do a road event, like it'll usually be a lot more punishing as well.
Right.
I mean, not like too punishing to where you can't complete the scenario, but it'll be harder. Usually, yeah.
Okay.
Do bad things to you.
So the question we had in the chat earlier on is, if time doesn't advance until you go back to Gloomhaven or Frosthaven, what's to prevent you from speeding through winter by going back to town after every scenario? And I guess nothing.
Right. So that's a good question. I assume they're referring specifically to like maybe like just intentionally failing a scenario. Maybe
possibly.
So there'll be rules to prevent that. Like it'll be, yeah. I'm not sure exactly how I'd word it. That's definitely a good question.
Right.
But yeah, basically like you'll only advance time and do events like if you completed the scenario, like successfully completed a scenario and then go back to town.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But otherwise, if you want winter to go by faster, like basically like you'll still have to do a town event.
Yeah.
Like every time period. And that's kind of like where most of the harsh winter stuff comes into play anyway.
Right.
But yeah, like if you're doing like a series of like 3 linked scenarios and you want to go back to town in between each of those, like that's totally fine.
You can, yeah. And somebody said, how does replaying scenarios work? Do you still earn materials?
Yes.
I'm guessing you do. That's the same in the original game. If you were to go in, play a scenario, get the loot, and then decide, oh, we really enjoyed that, let's play it again, you can.
Yes.
Yeah. Will Frosthaven feel as gloomy as Gloomhaven? Is probably the best question we've been asked so far.
I mean, it might even be more gloomy.
I think it'll be more frosty. Definitely more frosty and definitely more gloomy.
More frosty and maybe even more gloomy.
Yeah. Now, Scott Hill did send me a question earlier on, and he's threatened me with violence if I don't ask the question. He hasn't, but I'm saying that anyway. Do Inox wear socks?
I mean, I'm sure some of them do. I mean, it's not like a requirement, but I mean, the Drifter probably wears socks since it's really cold.
Because I did promise people that there would be exclusive information in this interview, so there we go. The Drifter.
There you go.
The Drifter wears socks. Right. If anybody else has any, we've pretty much been through everything that I'd planned to talk to you about. Is there anything you wanted to add that we haven't talked about yet?
I don't know. I also just like posted a blog post today where I was talking about a bunch of new stuff in the game as well. Yeah, I mean, like crafting is going to be really cool.
Let's talk about crafting.
Yeah, so you get these resources that you're not only going to be using to build buildings, but some of the buildings that you can build are also like crafting buildings where you can then spend resources to get items.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I don't know. I've always like really loved crafting in video games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the idea that if you want this really cool item, you've got to like go out and find the materials for it and then bring it back.
Yeah, I'm the same. I love that. Crafting survival games, one of my favorite types of games.
Yeah. And so yeah, I wanted to like include elements of that as well. So yeah, just because like the idea that like up in the north, like money doesn't have like a whole lot of value.
Yeah.
Uh, Resources have much more value. So like there's some items that you'll be able to just buy with gold, but a lot of the items you're going to get, you have to craft using resources.
Yeah.
And then also like in addition to the building resources, you'll also find herbs by getting loot tokens as well. And then you'll be using those herbs to brew potions at the Alchemist, which is
Right.
another building you can build. And that's really cool because it's kind of like a trial and error process.
Okay.
So you've got like this kind of like punch out board. You kind of think of it like the folders from Pandemic Legacy, where it's like this kind of
Yeah.
like two layer paper where you can punch out the first layer to see what's underneath.
Okay.
It's kind of like an advent calendar or something. And so you'll see like, oh, I've got like a rock root and a snow thistle, and I want to combine them to make a potion, but I don't know what that is until I like spend the resources, and then I'll be able to like punch out this, that space on this chart that kind of has,
Right.
the combination of all the different elements or all the different resources, herbs. I can get the right word.
Yeah.
All the different herbs, and then you punch that out and you see what potion you get from that.
Okay.
So it's kind of like this cool. I don't know. It's kind of like the board game Alchemists,
Yeah, I
right?
was
Where
going
you
to
like
say.
combine random elements and then you see what you get.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all really cool. I'm really excited about that.
So, did you ever think, if you love crafting in video games and stuff like that, was there ever a time when you considered putting that into Gloom Haven?
No.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like it.
Well, it was already big enough at the time.
Yeah. Like you didn't need more stuff to do, but
Yeah.
now you need more stuff to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just when I decided, because I think crafting came after like me deciding to like have resources to build buildings,
Okay.
and I was like, wait, you can also use these resources to make items,
Stuff.
and that makes a lot more sense too,
Yeah.
thematically. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it didn't come into my head until Frosthaven, but
Okay. I'm picking some other random questions from the chat, so apologies to everybody in the chat. I'm not going to be able to answer all of them. Any changes to the solo mode?
No.
No?
Yeah. So I mean, you can still play the game solo by playing multiple
Characters. Yeah.
I know some people think like the solo bump where you like have to increase the difficulty by one is a little too difficult.
Yeah. Me.
And I would probably agree. But I don't know. I feel like it can be too easy if you don't. It's like, I don't know. Maybe the solo bump should be like it's your average party level rounded up instead of down, like divided by 2 and rounded up.
There you
So
go.
like still level 1, but then as soon as you go to level 2, then you've got to go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here.
There you go. This is how game development is done. Random Skype conversations and somebody comes up with an idea.
Yeah, I might change it a little bit.
Okay.
We'll see.
We've been asked a couple of times, will the different language versions be available at launch?
Not at launch.
Okay.
But yeah, we are talking to our localization partners about it. I mean, they're pretty much all on board from what I can remember. So, I mean, so basically the way it'll work, the way it'll work is that when we're done with the files for the game and send them off to the printer, then at that point is when we'll send them to the localization partners so they can start translating. And so like they won't be released at the same time, but
Right.
it won't be as much of a delay as it was
Yeah.
for Gloomhaven, where it took a couple of years. Like it'll probably be more like, I don't know, 6 months or something.
Yeah.
Something in that time frame.
Okay.
And so like if you want a language that's not English because like you're more comfortable with that language, we're trying to get like the partners lined up where we'll provide links like on the Kickstarter page where you can go and maybe like sign up for so they can inform you of when it'll be released and stuff like that. So and it won't be too long of a wait, so you won't hopefully you won't feel like obligated to get the English version.
Yeah.
Just so you can play it earlier.
Okay. Right. Difficult question here. This is Gloom Haven is a great game. This is a question in from the chat, not my words, but they've said one of the issues is the balance, especially in the late game.
Sure.
Is this something that you considered when creating Frosthaven?
Yeah, to some extent. I think have and will do like more balancing passes on higher levels.
Right.
Yeah, so like the level progression of the monsters feels a little more balanced.
Okay.
It's definitely a consideration.
And you've already said that you felt that curses were a little bit too powerful,
Yeah.
so you've cut them down a bit, and you've changed the way that summons work, so that there's a lot more summons that aren't lost cards as well.
Yeah.
So that can all be sort of wrapped up in that.
Yeah, basically, I've heard everyone's complaints. I am out there. I'm listening, and I'm making changes accordingly.
Yeah, well, including mine. I've never worded it as a complaint, but you know, we're now levels 8 and 9, and we are playing on difficulty +1 and breezing it, and we're playing on difficulty +2 and we're still succeeding. So you know, I'd been told that by other people before I'd experienced it myself. And the rest of our group were really nervous about playing at +1 and +2. But yeah, when our characters get so good with lots of equipment, then yeah.
So, it also sounds like you're playing with a certain overpowered class.
Which one?
So, music note?
Not anymore, because I didn't like it.
Oh, not anymore?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, that character is still active, but I'm using one of Paul's house rules where I just put the character to one side and don't play it, and I start another character. And I will get that character out now and again, but I know the character is really powerful. I just didn't personally enjoy playing it. So I've got that one parked. I've actually got, I think, 2 or 3 active characters at the moment. I think 2. Okay. And yeah, my current active character has just reached level 9, and I'm really loving it. So it's like, do I want to go back to the other one? And it's like, oh, maybe not.
What class is that?
Will advantage be changed in the new version? Because it's weaker when your character has many rolling modifiers.
Definitely know that's a complaint that a lot of people have.
Well, we even house ruled it for our first 18 months of the game. We house ruled it because we wanted advantage to give us advantage. And you said no, it'll be too powerful if you do that, Paul. And I was like, no, what do you know, Isaac? You're just a games designer. 6 months ago.
No, I don't think I said it was too powerful. I just thought that, I don't know, it made more sense in my head to do it that way. And it was just a matter of like not like reducing the complexity. Yeah. But I don't know if it actually does that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's one of the things that hasn't been decided at this point. But I'll revisit it. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to be included in those discussions because I've tried a few different methods of it. Yeah. And I can tell you now the method we're using is the actual original one from the rulebook.
Oh, okay.
Because I can go into detail offline, but I felt that the method that we were using ended up getting very, very messy when there were lots of rolling modifiers, and the one that's printed in the rulebook is actually very clean and simple. So, but yeah, we can talk offline. So that's that's going to be talked about later on.
I mean, I think one thing that I will probably do, I mean, that'll help a little bit. That doesn't solve the problem or anything, but there will probably be like less rolling modifiers in the classes in Frosthaven.
Yep.
And that might help with like the messiness issue a little bit.
Yeah, the scoundrel, well, so quite a lot of them actually do get lots and lots of rolling modifiers. Right, well, just before we wrap up, let's move into dessert now, and I have been brought some ice cream.
Oh, do I need to get some ice cream?
You need to go and get some ice cream. If you've got any ice cream there.
I do. I mean, it's not in a bowl or anything. I could just take the carton out.
Yeah, we can have ice cream while we're doing the rest of the chat. Right, so I will go through the chat quick while Isaac's gone. Let's make some changes. Solo scenarios at launch. I'll ask him that when he gets back. And yeah, temporary work. If you get a rolling +1 and a
All right,
miss.
I'm back with ice cream.
Yeah, excellent. So we both got ice cream.
So, if you want to know a story about this ice cream,
Yeah, tell us.
well, so I'm vegan, and so it's usually like very difficult to find ice cream, or usually like it's really expensive and just not as good. And my favorite flavor of ice cream is cookies and cream.
Right.
And so it was a magical day in my life that happened, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or so. My wife texted me and she's like, there is non-dairy cookies and cream ice cream at Walmart now
Okay.
from Breyers, which is like a big ice cream company. And they give it to you in like these normal, what size is this? 1.5 quarts?
Right.
Like, big carton, whereas previously like you could only get vegan ice cream in like the little pint containers.
Yeah.
And it was always like overpriced. And so you get this giant thing of cookies and cream ice cream at like a reasonable price at Walmart. And it made me very happy.
There you go.
Because now I can eat ice cream whenever I want, and it's not like I feel like I don't know, splurging on something expensive.
Yeah. So I'll just go through a couple of questions in the chat while you're answering that. Somebody said, will the original solo scenarios from Gloom Haven be offered on the Kickstarter? And I think you said yes to that earlier on.
Yes.
What about solo scenarios for the new classes?
Yeah, we will be doing that too. So that'll be something that you can get during the Kickstarter as well.
Right. Okay. So that'll be offered at launch as well. Cool.
Yep.
Are they going to be as difficult as the original ones? And that's me asking that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. The idea with those solo scenarios is that it's something that you've got to like be really familiar with that class.
Yeah.
And know how to play it well. And then it's like this little puzzle on trying to figure out how to best use your abilities. Yeah.
No, I've only done 3 of them, but every one of them, yeah, as you say, it was a puzzle. It was like, right, okay, this scenario is designed for my character. Therefore, I have the cards to be able to do this. How am I going to do it? So yeah, that was quite cool. New cost stroke rebalancing for enhancement. Frederick's asked this a couple of times, so thank you for asking it again to remind me. Is that going to be changed or rebalanced?
It's possible.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked into that aspect of the game yet, or like how it would change. Yeah, I mean, it'll definitely be changed at least a little bit. Probably like, as I said, to like value curses a little higher and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Graham is asking, will we see a return of the creepy old man from Road Card 13? You see, I think that's spoilers. I've not seen Road Card 13 yet.
I couldn't tell you what Road Card 13 is.
Okay.
Creepy old man. Is that the guy who has like a bunch of wives?
Wives? I don't know. Graham knows this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good chance that there will be like a lot of thematic callbacks to things in Gloom Haven. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I'm not saying specifically the creepy old man, but stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. That's good. Benny's saying, any updates on the store progress? But I don't know what he means by that.
Oh, the web store.
Web store. Right.
Yeah, I've been saying that we're launching a web store for a long time now. Okay. And I don't know, there just keeps being things that push it back. But I am looking at a preview of it tomorrow.
Okay.
And I still would like to get it launched this week. So we're gonna look at it tomorrow and see. Hopefully everything is all there, and then and then we'll get it launched.
Excellent.
But yeah, I mean, it's still not guaranteed at this point. But like, I'm as disappointed as you are that it's not launched yet.
Okay. Moving on to more positive things, is Frosthaven going to have global achievements like Gloom Haven does?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Like I wasn't planning on it. So like a lot of the purpose of the global achievements was just kind of like to give you some sense of progress.
Right.
You know, most of them didn't have like a specific function in the game.
Right.
They were just kind of like a cool thing that you could put a sticker down because you did something.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I'm not saying like I don't know. We might throw it back in, but it's kind of like one of those things that I don't know. I haven't fully considered yet, just because like it doesn't have a huge impact on the gameplay.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of other indications of progress in this game, like with the town building and stuff. So yeah, I'm not sure it's necessary, but I mean it is fun. It's just like, you know, more stickers, and then you've got to find a place for it on the map. And yeah, make sure it like fits artwork wise with the map and all that. So
right.
Yeah, it's something to consider that we haven't fully decided on yet.
Sergio wants to know if the quality of the mini sculpts will be improved.
Yes.
Okay. Was there a train of thought then that they were not that good, or they could have been better?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things is just that the sculpts in the original game are all like single piece miniatures, right? Which means that, like, you know, you just inject them into the mold and that's it. And so like you have limited ways in which you can pose them, because like, you know, like you can't have like an arm in front of them, because then like you wouldn't be able to separate the mold. Yeah. Like that arm would have to be a separate piece, or you'd have to like do the mold from the side. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of like weird three-dimensional considerations that go into that. But yeah, so we're not limiting ourselves in Frosthaven on that. Right. And then also like, yeah, I'm happier with the sculptors that we've hired this time around as well. And also like the factory is just able to produce higher quality miniatures than what we were using. Or, well, actually we still haven't decided on a factory, but yeah, like, yeah, basically we just have like a lot more bandwidth to make sure that they come out better.
Yeah, cool. There was a question, it's just disappeared. Here we go. What is the biggest thing that you've learned from Gloom Haven that affected the design of Frosthaven? Apart from curses being too good.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a bunch of stuff like that, right? With curses, is like, now that, you know, tens of thousands of people have played the game and provided feedback on it in one way or another, like, yeah, there's just like a bunch of small tweaks to systems that I can make to better keep people happy. Like, I can't think of like one big overall thing. It's just like, yeah, a lot of little things.
What about, rather than information that's been gained through other people playtesting, things that you've learned yourself from the creation of Gloom Haven? Because I remember back to all of the blogs that you were writing on Gloom Haven and the design process at the time. And the one that sticks in my mind is when you were struggling to work out how to give characters experience, and then eventually you realized, well, hang on a minute, if I just put experience on some of the cards, and that was all part of the design process. Now, you've been through that already with Gloom Haven.
Yeah.
So to Frosthaven, there isn't much more, you know, it's a step up, but there isn't such a big step because you're not having to redesign the whole system from scratch.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, this is basically just like a new campaign, and there are obviously elements to it, but yeah, I'm able to take so much from Gloom Haven and just say like, yeah, I know that works.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. And Graham has confirmed that card number 13 is the creepy old man with the wives. So
with the wives, okay.
With the wives.
You haven't seen that creepy old
I,
man?
I still haven't seen it. Graham keeps asking me every time, every month, have I seen card
Oh, okay.
13 yet? And we haven't. So, yeah. What other things are you working on other than Frosthaven and Jaws of the Lion, games-wise, that you're allowed to
Oh,
talk about?
I mean, I'm not really working on it. I mean, I'm doing some work for Dark Tower.
Yeah,
Um, and then like last year, I was working on this, science-based worker placement game
yep,
that I think you played at Lyricon last
yep,
year. But yeah, I've basically just had to like put everything to the side, uh, with Jaws of the Lion needing to get done in
yep,
time, and then the Kickstarter. Yeah, I've just been very busy with those things and haven't had much time to focus on anything else. But
yep,
I'm hoping that'll change later in the year.
yep. And a few people have asked, and we haven't actually mentioned this yet, but how expensive is Frosthaven going to be when it goes on Kickstarter in a couple of weeks' time?
So I think we're gonna keep it to $100.
Nice, right?
But as opposed to the Gloomhaven Kickstarter where the shipping was included in that, I think we're gonna have to like do shipping separately
Yeah,
on top of that cost, like in the pledge manager.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, because ultimately it is going to be more expensive to produce because, like I said, there are more punch boards, there are more
yeah,
components, more stickers, more envelopes. Um, yeah, so at the end of the day, I think it will end up being like a higher MSRP
right.
than Gloomhaven as well, and so yeah, but yeah, it'll still be $100.
Okay, excellent. Right. There's probably lots of other messages in the chat, but a lot of the people are asking questions that we've already answered earlier on in the show, so I will let the people in the chat who have been here since the start answer those. Just another question about two-player. Will anything be done to balance for two players? And he's given examples of gaining prosperity and the equivalent. Because we've always
Yeah.
played with four, so it's never been a problem for us. But you're right, because the town gains prosperity every time somebody retires, you're going to have a lot less of that in a two-player game.
Yeah, so one thing I haven't really talked about with Frosthaven very much is prosperity. I mean, there will still be the similar concept of prosperity,
Right.
but as opposed to events and stuff, it'll mostly be tied to building up the town. So like every time you improve a building or build a building,
Yep.
it'll improve this prosperity where, higher that rating goes, the higher level you can start at. Um, so yeah, that's something I've been working on, yeah, with different player counts, right? Because you still have that same problem with a lower player count, like
Yeah.
you're going to be collecting fewer resources each scenario because you're going to be killing fewer monsters. But I think what I wanted to do was just have a varying loot deck,
Okay.
or actually, it doesn't even have to be varying. So basically, like one of the cards in the loot deck will be like, you gain a lumber, like if you draw this card. But I'm gonna, do something like, you'll gain a lumber if you have 4 players, or if you have 2 or 3 players, you'll gain 2 lumber, and just have
Right.
those cards varied. So there'll be one that'll just be like, if you're 2 players, you get 2 lumber, but if
Okay.
you're 3 or 4, you'll get 1. So yeah, with fewer players, you'll still collect around the same amount of resources,
Yeah.
and so that will be balanced in terms of building up the town.
Okay. Cool. And apparently we've had lots of questions over the last hour or so about inserts.
Ah.
Is it going to come with an insert? Is it going to come with a better insert? And is there going to be any way of speeding up the setup of the game?
Yeah, that's a sticky question. So the inserts, I mean, hopefully it'll be a little bit better, but I mean, it'll be something similar. We might also have like a token tray
Yep.
in there as well if we can find space for it. Um, but yeah, like if you want like a really nice insert that's going to organize everything, like it's just not possible,
No.
like given the constraints. But we are working with Broken Token. I know that's like not a great answer to some people because it is like a significant extra investment in the
Yeah.
game. But yeah, like we will have an add-on in the Kickstarter where you can get a Broken Token insert.
Yeah.
So and Broken Token will be having those available like as the game is released, so you don't have to wait for those to come out. They'll be
Right.
available right away.
Okay.
Yeah, so the insert will be better. It may and will also like be including plastic bags.
Right.
But yeah, if you want like a really nice insert that's going to fit everything, you will still have to pay extra money for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's normal. So to wrap things up, we're going to do the last question now, and this is just come in on the chat. Do you think Frosthaven will surpass Gloom Haven as the #1 game on BGG?
Honestly, probably not.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think about it like Pandemic Legacy Season 1 and Season 2. To me, like I really enjoyed Pandemic Legacy Season 2 more. Like I would rate that higher.
Okay.
I mean, I guess that's not everybody's opinion.
No, I know a lot of people that have the opposite opinion to that.
But, you know, given that that's true.
Yeah.
In my mind, you know, you still, like, Pandemic Legacy Season 2, like, obviously didn't surpass Season 1.
Yeah.
And I just think, like, a lot of it's based on timing.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of things that go into, like, why some games, like, become #1 and get played by everybody. Like, I don't know. It's a hard question to answer, but like I'm not expecting it to. Like I see what happened with Season 1 and Season 2 of Pandemic Legacy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just like in my mind, I can sort of see something similar happening with Frosthaven. Like, right, which isn't to say that the game is not going to be better. Like I think that Frosthaven is going to be like a much better experience than Gloom Haven.
Yeah.
But just like the amount of people who play it, the amount of people who rate it. Some people may not share that opinion. They might think it's too complicated, or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a complaint with Season 2, right? Like that maybe it was just like went too far away from the formula or something, and it was too complicated. But anyway, yeah, I guess that's my answer. I mean, I would be thrilled if it became the new #1. But it's not something I'm expecting.
You can hand the trophy over to yourself then. So, cool. Right, I said that was the last question, but interestingly enough, we've just had one in, which is about a Gloom Haven LCG. See, I told you. Yeah, so it just so happens that Isaac does know somebody who really wants to do a Gloom Haven card game and is working on it in every spare moment they can get.
Which is like no spare moments.
Which is no spare moments. However, I've just found out that I'm not going to the Czech Republic next week.
Oh yeah, you could work on it next week.
Yeah, in fact, you know, I asked you last week, were you going to LyriaCon? I was going to give you the update on where I'm up to with the card game, which is not very far, to be fair, but it's a lot further than I was
last year at LyriaCon.
It's further than I was when I spoke to you last year at LyriaCon. So yeah, I've basically had an idea for a Gloom Haven card game, not using, well, I don't know the model because I don't know what your opinion of the LCG model is, but basically a Gloom Haven card game inspired by a number of other LCGs that I already play. It's just, I just need the time to sit down and create a starting scenario so that you can play it. And yeah, since you're not going to be at LyriaCon, I'm probably not going to get it done by Gen Con. We'll do it next year. We'll do it sometime next year. But no, that is still on my mind quite a lot, and I just need to make it happen basically. So
all right, well, you know, I am patient. I have plenty of other things to do. So yeah, whenever you get around to it, I'll look at it.
Yeah. Definitely. Right. Thank you very much for your time. We've been almost a couple of hours, but it's gone well. All the testing that we did to make sure this software worked seems to have worked, and excellent. So 24th of March. If that date is not in your calendar, go and put it in your calendar now. It is the date where Lyricon was going to start and now isn't. But more importantly, it's when Frosthaven goes live on Kickstarter. I was going to ask you what you're going to have as your goal, but it's going to meet it, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what I was going to put as the goal.
Yeah. It'll be something.
It'll be something.
Because you don't go in for all of that of advertising of funded within 13 seconds or...
Oh, yeah. I find that so silly.
5,000% funded and...
Yeah. Funded in 12 minutes. It's like, I don't understand why that's important.
Yeah, well, it doesn't make much difference to me and you, but it is good advertising, it is good marketing. It's like the people who say sold out within an hour when they only took 25 copies of their game to Gen Con.
Right.
It's like, unfortunately, it works. That kind of marketing. But what I'm saying is, that kind of marketing works for certain campaigns. I think you're beyond that now. I don't think that level of advertising is going to have any impact on the people who are going to back Frosthaven. They're going to back it because they know what they're getting already, I think.
Yeah.
Is my thoughts. Anyway, thank you very much for your time. I'm glad we shared another ice cream together because it's been too long since we did that. I will let you disappear and get back to work. I'm not going to get any more work done today because it's late here. But thank you very much to everybody for joining in on the chat.
Thank you.
And thanks for answering all of the questions. And I'm sure people have got more questions, but we did as many as we can. So, yes.
Yeah. Well, come back in 2 weeks and I'll answer them on the Kickstarter.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of questions going on the Kickstarter, and Isaac will be there to answer all of them. Cool. Right. Thank you very much, Isaac. I will see you later on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Gaming Rules is proudly sponsored by Game Toppers, upgrading your gaming experience. Visit GameToppersLLC.com.